Good morning, everybody. It's another edition of Tool Shed Tuesday. It's bright and early in the morning. I figured I'd go ahead and get this knocked out. And what I want to talk about today is the title for this video will be Alaska is Trying to Kill Us. And what I mean by that is when you hear the word Alaska, you start conjuring up, the last frontier and all that stuff. And for the most part, it is. This state is pretty wild. As far as our highway system, it only touches just a corner of the state. The rest of it you have to get to by bush plane. Everything is just remote up here. But one thing I want to talk about is Alaska has 130 volcanoes. 60 of them are considered active. And a few of them have actually blown in the last couple years. So something's always popping off up here. On top of that, we average about 5,600 earthquakes a year. And I think I heard something to the tune of, that's like a quarter of the world's earthquakes or something like that. Don't quote me on that, guys. But we have about 5,600 a year. Now, since that big one popped off that all you guys have heard about in the news, that big 7.0, there was almost 6,500 aftershocks afterwards, ranging anywhere from 6s all the way down to 2s and 1s. And everything in between. So, if you don't get wiped out by a volcano, if you don't get swallowed up by a earthquake, well, you then have wild animals. Black bears and grizzly bears, and brown bears. There's basically 3 types. Grizzlies are a little further down south, mainly towards the coast and the islands. Kodiak grizzlies, things of that nature. But the size of these animals up here is no joke. As far as the grizzlies go, I mean, these things range anywhere from 600 pounds to 1,300 pounds. Now, when you start getting into that size, man, I mean, that's like a small SUV just ripping through the woods coming to get you. So, that's just on the Kodiak brown bear side. Then you got the browns. And the browns will average anywhere from 500 to 700 pounds.
Blacks.
And then you've got the blacks. The blacks range from anywhere between 300 to 500 pounds. So I did see a couple videos a while back of some hunters that were in the northeast United States on the east coast. And they were posing with these little tiny Appalachian black bears. And the first thing I was thinking was just, oh, that's just such a baby. Why would you kill a cub? Why would you kill a baby? And then it dawned on me, it's like, that's not a baby. That's a 200-300 pound adult black bear. Now, I'm not saying that the East Coast, Appalachian Trail, I'm not saying you guys don't get big black bears down there. But for the majority of the bears, us coming from Atlanta, Georgia, yeah, I know what the size of a black bear is. And yeah, compared to up here, they're babies. So, if the animals don't get you, the next thing that's going to get you is the weather. One thing we do have up here is brutal winters. Everybody knows that. Now, whenever you see these misconstrued stories, 85 below, 70 below, you have to understand that either somebody's thermometer's broken or they're just exaggerating, okay? The worst I have ever seen it out here was 28 below, okay? And some of you are thinking, well, hell, that's cold enough. But the one thing about the cold up here is it's a dry cold. I can't explain that to you, except it's just dry. And I guess I'll give you a good example. If it's 90 degrees in Atlanta, we also have humidity. So at 9 o'clock in the morning, you were just pouring sweat if you're doing anything physical. By 10 o'clock, you've already got your shirt off and you're just dripping. It's muggy, it's thick, and you're just dying. Now, let's go to Arizona. Arizona can get to 110, 115 degrees easy during the summertime, but it's a dry heat, no humidity. So, take your pick. Well, wintertime is the same way. Let's take the Northeast, for example, Northeast United States. It's cold up there whenever they get snowstorms in, but they also get the moisture with that snowstorm. And so it's just a bone-chilling cold. Gets into your bones and you just can't shake it. Up here, yes, it does get really cold. It's cold every day, actually. But it is a dry cold. You can grab the snow and just pour it out of your hand. It's like crystalline. Do we get wet snow every now and then? Yes, we do. But for the most part, it's just that dry snow. So if the volcanoes don't get you, if the earthquakes don't get you, if the animals don't get you, if the cold doesn't get you, wildfires will. Now, I know that the last 10 years, I'm not doing a comparison here, last 10 years, the western United States has just been on fire. You guys have dealt with hundreds, thousands of small little fires and major fires as well. Well, what's not reported so much is that Alaska every year has the same thing. It's just normal for lightning strikes to hit in remote regions out here and just thousands and thousands of acres to burn up. But it doesn't make the national news because the only thing that's going to burn up out here is a bunch of trees and maybe a few remote cabins. It's not going to go ripping through neighborhoods because there are no neighborhoods out here. So that's why Alaska's fires never hit the mainstream media. But we do have a bunch of them every year. As a matter of fact, there is a website that you guys can go to that tracks our earthquakes and our wildfires. So if you ever want to track the daily earthquakes that happen up here, it's called Southeast Alaska Earthquakes, or Today's Earthquakes Southeast Alaska. Type that into Google. A couple of headings will pop up. Click on one, and what you'll see is you'll see these color-coded rings throughout the state. And that's what happened today, right now. So every day something's popping off up here. And then the other one for the wildfire map, it's the DNR wildfire map. So during the summertime, that thing will just be lit up. And there'll be anywhere between 20, 30, 40 fires going at one time. And they'll only put resources, hot shot crews and drop crews, on certain fires that are kind of getting out of hand that might or might not start going towards small communities. Now, if there's a remote wildfire that gets pretty out of hand, yeah, they'll dump some resources into it. But as we all know, if it's only going to burn up forest, they're already stretched thin up here, you know. So they're only going to put the resources where they can, when they can. So in that vein, Alaska is trying to kill you one way or the other. And the last thing I'd like to mention are the summers up here. During the summers, our state bird comes out. And the state bird of Alaska is the mosquito. And there's billions of them. Billions of them every 50 feet. So I know a lot of you boys down in Louisiana and the swamplands of Mississippi and the Okeechobee down there in Florida. I know you guys have swamps. And I know you guys have bad mosquito problems. But guys, I'm just telling you. I've been down there. I know mosquitoes are bad down there. But up here, oh my word, it's just on another level.
And they're huge.
And they're huge. So one will come buzzing by you. It's like a Huey. And you're like, what the hell was that? So a funny story. When I first got up here years ago, I get off my plane. I go and get my bags from the Anchorage International Airport. I cross the street. I'm smoking a cigarette. And I'm waiting on my taxi to come get me. And there's this Alaskan who obviously picks up one of his friends from the lower 48, and I overheard their conversation. And the friend was all excited to be in Alaska, and he was happy, and he had a big grin on his face. And he looks up in the sky, and he says, "Is that a hawk? Or is that a bald eagle?" And the Alaskan says, "No, that's a mosquito." And I just started chuckling under my breath. And this is before I knew the mosquito problem. And then by the time I got out to my my property that summer, oh my goodness, they were thick as, oh boy. So, if you're no friend of DEET, you know all that stuff, you know, all that natural ointments and little things you put on yourself to keep away, man, that stuff doesn't work up here, guys. I'm telling you, mosquitoes drink that stuff for breakfast in the morning. They take a couple shots of that natural remedy and herbal stuff. You need DEET 40 up here. Now, I'm not saying you have to hose down, but on the days where I don't feel like hosing down, I put my mosquito net on and I make sure that every inch of my skin is covered. Now, I will say this. One thing about the mosquitoes out here is mosquitoes don't like sunlight. So if you're in the forest and there is a shade line, you can step over in the shade line and get hit by 90 mosquitoes. step 2 feet to your right inside the sunshine, and they leave you alone. So that's kind of a trick for you. But if you're in the forest, if you're in the shade, oh Lord, good luck. So I guess in that vein, let's see, what else was there? I think that's about it, guys. So this state is one extreme or the other. There's nothing in the middle. It's either brutal cold or beautiful weather. It's either no mosquitoes or 55,000 of them. It's either no animals or animals are running everywhere. So some of my friends back home, they say, do you hunt and do you do all this and where do you go? And I always hear these stories about hunters saying, yeah, we're going to go hunting. And they always travel some far distance. And then once they get there, they set up camp. And then they travel a far distance out into the woods and they set up shop and they're in their stands and whatnot. And I'm thinking, man, the only thing I have to do is just step out my front door, sit in a chair, crack a beer, and something's coming by. Either a moose, a bear, something. So it is kind of funny up here because I am out here in the middle of nowhere. So I'm already in the hunting grounds. And we've got a little creek about 125 yards off my front door. And during the summertime, when it's flowing, I get 3 species of salmon running up it. And on any given day, you're going to see bear tracks going one way in the morning, the other way in the afternoon. And like I was saying on another video, if you can see the claws, that's a grizzly. If you just see a pad, that's a black bear. And you can kind of track the movements of these guys. So you got to be on your P's and Q's up here. So this state, if you're not careful, it'll catch you slipping and it'll kill you. So guys, I'm going to go ahead and end this, wrap this up, because I have got a ton of chores to do today, and they're not going to do themselves. So in that vein, hope you guys like these. Let me know if you do. If you don't, I'll stop this whole series. But I kind of like sitting in this little tool shed, talking stuff, talking smack, and just kind of telling you guys what's going on up here. And so put some comments down below. If you like them, let me know you like them. If you don't, let me know you don't. Or what kind of format you'd like to see. If you guys have questions, please feel free to ask, because we love answering them. We love talking to all you guys. So keep your boots dry, take care of each other, and have a great day.